You're listening to the Paul Higgins Show, the place for ambitious tech consultants scaling to live better. After 18 years as a global leader and having a successful tech consulting exit, I'm sharing what's working now to transform emerging tech consultants worldwide into trusted consultants that attract the best clients and deliver measurable results. When you're ready to level up your clarity, results, and freedom, begin with the free Strategic Profits Blueprint available at paulhigginsmentoring.com/blueprint. Imagine you were 2 months in the red and you're about to lose your business, but even worse, potentially your house could be on the line. How do you turn it around while keeping sane? Hello, I'm Paul Higgins and welcome to my podcast. This is the situation Bryan faced. And today he will take you through the three key things that he did to help turn it around. One, he introduced a brand new program called Support as a Service. Second, he went and got an executive coach to help them out of where they're at. And the third thing is they basically followed the EOS framework to step out of the business and get their team to do the things that they shouldn't have been doing. Bryan Willman is the managing partner at TechFino. He leads the Netsuite technical solutions and R&D practices for the business. He holds a master's degree in computer engineering from Drexel University, and he's a Six Sigma Green Belt certified with a decade of experience building custom software solutions. He's also a proud member, I should say, of the IEEE, so IEEE Computer Society, and he's been doing that for the last 16 years. He gives you a very brilliant inside view of where he was and what he did to turn it around, which is very applicable. I'll now hand you over to Bryan Willman from techfino.com. Great to have you here, Bryan.
Great to be here, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, very excited to hear about your journey and your growth. Like I said in the intro, you've grown 266% in 3 years. That's a fantastic effort, but I know it wasn't always the case, and we'll dive into that in a moment. But why don't we kick off with who are your ideal clients and what problems you love to solve for them?
Sure. Our ideal client, I would say, is an experienced buyer, someone who's bought an ERP software package before, appreciates the product's complexity and breadth, and realizes there's no magic bullet. Seems like everybody wants fast, easy, quick, and cheap these days. It's a very complex system. The ERP enterprise is just spanning a wide swath of functionality and is not just accounting and finance, as you know. I'd say it's also a buyer that has prior NetSuite experience or a private equity-backed firm that's looking to grow quickly. Typically an RFP consultant-driven process, knows what they need and want, user count over 20. And from an industry perspective, we typically serve retail, wholesale, manufacturing, different services companies, technology, software, nonprofit, media, and healthcare companies.
Yep, brilliant. And is there any, because, we're recording this in September. I know this is going to come out in early 2024. So I wish we could give you a crystal ball on what the economy is going to be like, but we can't. But any particular industry or types of companies that are doing better than others at the moment when things are difficult?
Well, one of the things that surprised me is that we're seeing a lot more manufacturing coming into the US. So over the past 2 years, we've been seeing more, I'd say, an uptick in customers coming to us in the manufacturing space. It's not kind of what you're hearing on TV when you listen to Bloomberg and so forth. I'd say that that's probably the most surprising thing from my perspective.
Great. And I know that in the intro or before we went to air, you were talking about the fact that, if someone's wants a really quick implementation and not ready or not willing to do the hard work, you sort of say, hey, we might not be the partner for you.
That's
Tell
right.
us, has it always been that case, or is that something that you've learned by doing?
Yeah, we can certainly move quick. I don't say that. I'd say our firm's policy or our mantra is really high quality. So we don't try to be the cheapest or the fastest. We typically try to be the best quality, especially when it comes to accounting and finance. Usually that's the most important thing when you're trying to do something very quick and complex. Kind of our mantra, and we'll walk away from a deal when we feel the client is going to be difficult to work with, unreasonable, or doesn't really appreciate what they're going to need to do and what we're going to need, and is just expecting everything to work like an executable that they install on their computer. That's just not that type of thing,
No. And I know we've certainly found in the past working with clients is that it's got to have, the owner's buy-in. Like if the owner's not bought into it, well, no matter who under them wants it to happen, it won't be successful. So I think that owner buy-in is so important. And some of the problems that they face, these manufacturing businesses in particular at the moment, what are some of the problems that you're solving for?
I'd say in general, clients come often looking to purchase NetSuite from us either after outgrowing QuickBooks, maybe are working with an ERP software selection type of firm, often look to modernize their finance and accounting software stack, expand globally, and needing that single integrated suite of applications to streamline processes between operations and finance and get better real-time visibility into those functions. We often see the need to implement additional modules and third-party solutions outside of the ERP module, such as CRM, HR, e-commerce, inventory management, supply chain, and warehouse operations, as well as change management and other systems integrations. We see a lot of that in our space.
Yeah, and just quickly on the AI piece of NetSuite. So tell us a little bit about what you're currently seeing, and give us a bit of a forecast of what you think is going to happen around AI with NetSuite.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Very timely. I'm actually quite excited to go to Sweet World this year. I go every year, pretty much. The owner of the firm, and we tend to bring our team there. And it's a great camaraderie, and we get to learn about the product and so forth. And I think for the past 2 years or so, we've been hearing about AI, and now you're seeing it in like everywhere. And Oracle is just dumping a fortune into the product. So I'm expecting to see some real tangible AI at the conference. They haven't really revealed too much about it, so I really can't say. I'm sure there's going to be a number of areas that will definitely benefit from that to save time, and especially a lot of things where you're using robot automation and so forth, manual entry of things. I'm sure they're going to have solutions for that.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things I know, like I haven't self been a partner since 2019, but what I always looked for when I was in corporate was, are they putting their best people against the activities that really matter? For you, if listening to Brian and myself, is your platform got the best people, and have they got dedicated people against AI? And I think if they haven't, well, then get the partners together to get that to happen, because I think often, yes, they say follow the money, but it's follow the best people, right? And follow the people in the way that they've structured it to do it. I think next year, 2024, is going to be brilliant for the platforms and a lot of stuff that comes out of that. Let's shift gears a little. So as I said, you've grown, 266% in 3 years, but there was a point where things weren't great. And you told me at one point you'd a significant amount of money in the red after 2 consecutive months and didn't really realize how close you were to shutting the door down. Take us to that situation and caused it, and how did you get out of that?
Sure. Well, it kind of stemmed from our change in direction. I forget what year it was now, thinking about it, if it was 2018 or 2019. But we were basically the first NetSuite partner to develop and offer a software as a service offering. And the idea came from our mentor. And then that offering really was geared around sort of serving the customer, make sure we focus on that long tail of the customer journey, optimizing their system and their business and their processes long after purchasing the license. I think a lot of the partners in the ecosystem tend to really focus on sales and may not maintain quality and so forth. So we've always been that type of partner that wanted to really focus on making sure customers getting the ROI on this expensive investment into NetSuite. So in that vein, we were basically changing our business model, and as a result, didn't realize all the messes we were creating in our business, where invoices weren't going out on time. We weren't seeing that we weren't charging the right amount of money. We were just making lots of mistakes as we were trying to change very quickly. We thought we were more nimble and agile than we really were as a smaller company. So that realization that even though we're helping customers with their finance and accounting function get better visibility into the business, we did a poor job at it ourselves and realized that, okay, we got to do a way better job here. So we got more focused. We brought in a controller to help us from the accounting side with cash flow management and so forth. He was amazing, really big help. We also basically changed our approach of having me do everything and started putting managers below me for the first time right after that. And that really helped too. So, yeah.
Yeah. And the change in business model, right? I think, we'll dive a little bit more into what support as a service is and how you do it. But take us to that moment where your mentor suggested it. Was it something that you instantly thought, yes, that's great? Or is it something that you and your business partner, took a bit of time to get your head around?
At first, it was, hard to kind of imagine what that would do for our business and for our clients and how it would be received. It need a little bit of sort of, pulling into that vision. But once we were there, we were like, okay, yeah, we see this. We realize the value of having this sort of team approach that brings in the right experts at the right time to help clients. A lot of times they don't realize what they need until after we're live. And they're like, hey, we need somebody to help us as an admin. Can't hire somebody, or a lot of times it's a realization that we need more help than we thought we would. Having that team approach and very much structured into supporting, the chaos that you typically see in an enterprise after implementing a new ERP system, I think that's been, really instrumental. Changing our model was really changing like a lot of our business processes, our accounting system to support that. And then we started to really lean on more of our managers and ask for help when we realized, hey, we need help here. We're making mistakes, and we started to delegate more and really bring in more of our team for help at that point.
Right. And the mentor, were they someone within the industry that they'd seen something like this before?
Yes.
Not NetSuite, but the general industry, or were they someone from outside of the industry?
Yes, they were somebody from inside the industry, kind of seeing that this was something that NetSuite was starting to really consider for their partners and so forth. So he helped us kind of see that a little bit ahead of maybe the other partners. So that gave us a little bit of a jump start, knowing that this was something that NetSuite was starting to encourage partners to come into.
Right. And just take us through what is software as a service in the way that you've structured it. How was it at the start, and how's it structured now?
And our support as a service, I'll call it.
Oh,
I'd
sorry,
say
support. Yes, sorry.
yeah, no worries. In the support as a service model, ours, we still charge by the hour essentially, but we charge, a reduced rate because what we're looking to do is really set up the right support, have the right number of hours, the right dedication from our side to support that client. So if we get that, we're happy to give a discount in that case. And then we basically, every month are working on the most important things with the business, providing weekly reports. When we first onboard the customer, we really go into all of their business processes. If we didn't implement NetSuite for them, we really do a good job kind of doing a baseline assessment and then replaying back to the business owners, here's what we've gathered and what we've understood to make sure we are able to really understand their business and support them. When you work with us, it's a dedicated team, people that have worked with you before. You get to know them by name. You can call us. So that type of partnership has been really great. And we also will use the customer systems if they have their own project management tool that they'd like to use, or other systems that they'd like to bring us into. We're happy to get closer to them as a managed service partner, and they can bring us in to work on other areas, even outside of NetSuite, where typically NetSuite support team wouldn't really go beyond the boundaries of the NetSuite application. We're more than happy to do that in certain cases. So we also do things such as Soligo and Dell Boomi and those type of integration platforms. We're happy to support those as well.
Right. And what's the typical length of the firstly, is there a contract? And if there is a contract, how long does it normally go for?
Sure. So we typically do 3-month contracts to start, and then eventually we look for that annual contract once we get to a good steady state. Sometimes clients come and we don't really know how many hours they're going to need, or they don't know. And, when we miss the mark. So we have the ability to scale up and down, every 3 months if you'd like, or we can go with a longer term annual contract to fit within your budget.
Right. And do you sell it for a new implementation client? Do you sell the support as a service at the start? Is it included in the total package, or do you sell it after the implementation is successful?
Excellent question. I would love if we were selling it part of the implementation. Unfortunately, today we're doing it more at the tail end, and sometimes it comes as more of a surprise than it should. So I think we're getting better about now really importing this more into the front end of the process and making clients aware that this is our offering and what we can support you with. You don't need to sign up right away, but at least getting them educated about it is something that we've done. But then sometimes it's kind of the surprise. Oh, we're going live next month. We need this support, and okay, we have to kind of, it may be a lot at the same time all happening, right? We're trying to do that a better job selling it with the implementation.
Yeah. And as far as the share of your total revenue, how much would it account for as the share of the total revenue at the moment?
Yeah, I think the industry average is around 14% for partners that basically do what we do. And we're well above that. I think we're about 20 to 21% is sort of our recurring revenue.
Yeah, great. Yeah, look, it's fantastic. I know that when we sold our tech consulting business, the recurring revenue component was, the key that got that multiple up a lot higher, plus the systems that we have in place. So yeah, I'm a huge proponent of getting as much recurring revenue in the business as possible. It gives you more certainty to make better investment decisions, and works well all the way around. Now, the other part of the business that you said you've got some help. So the mentor gave you the great idea and helped you implement it, which is fantastic. The other part, I know that you, from an operating model, you've gone and got someone to help you with the EOS model, which most of you be familiar with. So just tell us a little bit about that journey. Why did you decide to go find someone for EOS, and then walk us through, some of the benefits you've gained from that?
Yeah, so I think in the last year or so, I realized just there was some transformation that needed to happen in our firm and really get better at leading as an executive. As I started to move out of the business, my business partner and I both finally were, I'll say, out of the business after over 8 years. So it took us a long time to get to that state. But then once we got there, we realized we need to work on ourselves, and also to really add more value to the company, take it to that next level. So that's really where that came from. And I'd also say, as a part of that, when we found our executive coach, it was, sort of a great aha, a big unlock, I'll say too, where there was a lot of things really quickly where we saw a lot of value from that, and learned a lot very quickly. EOS being that first tool that was really implemented, and we read the book Traction, and then we read the book, How to Be a Great Boss was the other one, and then there was Rocket Fuel, which was
Yes.
a great one that helped me realize, okay, you have the visionary and you have the integrator. And I think both me and my partner, after reading that, realized that we were both visionaries instead of,
Yeah.
one
Right.
of us being the integrator. And
Yes.
I've kind of served as mostly the integrator, but not, I don't like to be the integrator, but I
Yeah.
have been. So that's where, like, I think a lot of the angst and arguments and trouble we had. So we had an assessment come in and they said, you guys have a lot of aim and a little fire here. It's always been true. So EOS is helping us get better traction, realizing what our goals are, and then keeping them front and center throughout the quarter and then throughout the year.
Yeah, and if you look at the methodology, how much of it is you doing it by the book, i.e., 100%, versus at whatever percent you're actually implementing it? How close are you to following the letter of the law?
Very good question. I'd say we haven't fully implemented EOS yet. Of the tools that we've implemented, we've kind of made them, we've taken bits and pieces to make it ours. I'd say out of, like, the level 10 meeting for leadership, for example, I'd say we adopted about 90% of that. And so we may extend the meeting a little bit more to get closer to that 100% next year. But as of this year, I'd say we're, about 90% on that particular tool. The VTO and other tools that we've implemented, not as much, maybe like 70%. And then this year, we're going to do our first, like, annual leadership retreat in January, which we're all looking forward to. So we'll basically get closer and closer to implementing, a good 90% of what EOS has.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and look, I think it's a great methodology. I think there's always, the devil's in the not the detail in this point. It's more the fact that you make it. It's better to have something that's consistent that you make of your own than try to follow it perfectly, and then it gets too complicated and then it falls over, right? So I think that's the advice. If you're listening to Bryan, I think the advice is make it your own. Don't It doesn't have to be 100% text perfect. It's more the
Right.
fact that it's consistent and you make it your own. I think that's the most important piece when we've helped people implement a system like EOS. But it's always good to read the books, and we'll have the links to the book in the both or three of the books that Bryan mentioned in the show notes. The last one is, I know that you get some good leads from an inbound agency, which is fantastic. But the other part that I wanted to briefly talk about is strategic partners. So some of your growth has come from working with strategic partners like accounting firms, et cetera. And I know that a lot of people struggle with this. They say, it's fantastic. I'd love to have strategic partners, but they don't actually get meaningful leads out of it. So just tell us, how are you getting meaningful leads out of these strategic partners?
Yeah, so I'd say the partner that we've worked with has been great, meaning they basically came from a sales background, learned the marketing on the job in order to get more leads for himself, and then realized that formula. If you're familiar with the pillar page approach, that's kind of I'd say, the bedrock of our inbound marketing strategy. And what he's, basically done this as at another NetSuite partner, and then basically offered that to us as a service. has really helped us rank high on those keywords that people are looking for to purchase NetSuite.
Right. And that's the inbound, which is fantastic. What about the strategic partners though? I know you said you worked with
Yeah.
some
So we
strategic partners.
we used to purchase a booth at SuiteWorld, and we stopped doing that recently just because the ROI isn't there any longer.
Yep.
But I'd say the one lead that we got from our booth there was, an accounting firm we met, and they basically, were interviewing 60 different NetSuite partners to basically be their go-to partner for NetSuite because they were seeing NetSuite as kind of, it was typically between Microsoft and NetSuite in a lot of their software selections. And they're a real, true partner. This is SC&H. They've basically been a true neutral partner. They, don't have a bias between which ERP and so forth and which partner, but they wanted to make sure they got the right partner, which I was like really kind of, happy to see. And they said, we got down to eventually the last two partners, and then they came on site and met me and my partner and our sales engineer and so forth. And we did a bake off basically, and we won because we were willing to talk and basically solve problems on the spot, which they were seeing from some of the other partners that they were interviewing. So that was kind of what took things our way. And they've basically ever since then brought us into that deal and several others over the years. And then other partners that we've met have been the same way, where they would give us, maybe one project or one challenging implementation. We would turn it around or fix it. We're the other thing, we're the only partner that I'm aware of that's never had a failed NetSuite implementation, which is really hard to say. And I'm pleased to say that, that's the case. And so I think that's also the other thing is when you're kind of able to handle the hairiest, most complex enterprise implementations like that, partners tend to come back to you. And that's been great for us. And I'd say, again, that probably alone is, 20 to 30% of our revenue a year these days.
Yeah, I think and it gets, I always say to people, who goes before you, who goes after you, i.e., who's got your audience that you can partner with, and it's not for the faint-hearted. So not everyone can get strategic partnerships to work, but like you said, if it can become 30% of your mix, then it's a very cost-effective way of gaining new clients, and I highly recommend it. I've got other episodes on it, so I won't dive into it now, but
I have one more story if you're
go for it.
interested on that topic. I just realized we're actually in the middle of purchasing another NetSuite practice from one of our strategic partners that we worked with for over 8 years. And so we had a great relationship with them. I can't release the name because the transaction still hasn't happened. But essentially we kept in touch, worked with them for many years, invited them to our SuiteWorld parties, always kind of wined and dined them just for fun when we were there all together. Never thought anything would come out of it. And then I got the call, a couple months ago that, hey, we're getting rid of our practice and we're getting a partner to sell to. Your name came to the top of the list. So yeah, I'd say very important to keep your networking relationships going, even though it's hard when you're trying to sell and hire and do all the things that, we try to do in a services business.
Yeah. Look, the big leaps forward are made when you work on the business, not in it, right? And I think you're a great example of you and your partner stepping out of the business and working on that, and that's where those results come. But now we're going to change gears. We're going to go into the rapid fire to round us off. So I'm going to ask you 4 questions. You're going to give me some responses. You ready for that?
Sure. Let's do it.
All right. Just before I do that, though, we're talking to Bryan Willman. It's episode of the Paul Higgins podcast. So the first one is, what are some daily habits that you do to help drive TechFino.com?
Well, I use the big 3 goal system and a paper planner as well as an electronic planner to keep track of all my goals and answering problems nowadays with who, not how, realizing I need to delegate more and do less myself.
I love it. And where do you go to find out more about how you grow TechFino?
Interesting enough, I stumbled across your site earlier this year when looking for sales help when we were kind of running into a rut there. I also have a friend that has a podcast, Brian Dennis, called Cash Flow, which I go to. And then my first million, I don't know if you've heard of that podcast. I listen to that as well. So I get some inspiration from those sources. Thank you.
Yeah, look, it's I know you're listening to Bryan and I because you believe in podcasts, and it is just a brilliant way to get like it just it's a brilliant time to be thinking about growing your business and getting all that free advice that's out there. The third one is, if I could grant you one wish for TechFino, what would that be?
Solve the age-old problem with consulting, how to have the right size team to match the business need. It's always feast or famine, it seems.
Yeah, true. But the recurring revenue piece helps with that, right?
That does really help, I will
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yep. Support as a service, please go and implement that. And the last one is, what do you know now that you wish you had known earlier about running TechFino?
Oh, where do I start? Like I mentioned, I think the executive coach and the EOS system more recently has been a game changer. Prior to that, I'd say hiring the right management team, especially for our offshore delivery teams that we have, has really helped me to get out of the day to day. So yeah, I would say that's probably the main ones.
All right, brilliant. Well done for the depths of despair when you guys realized you had a massive cash flow problem and it could have, personally impacted you to now turning around the growth, acquiring other businesses and setting up that support as a service. So well done for all of that. And thanks for coming on and sharing your knowledge and wisdom today. So great to have you on, Bryan.
My pleasure. Thank you again, Paul. Best of luck.
That was a great interview with Bryan, and he really shared with you those three key things. And in particular, I think around getting some support. Off air, we spoke about how he was reluctant to do it. And a really good friend of his said to him, no, Bryan, the opportunity cost of not getting someone to help you is enormous. And now, like he said, he's at 21% of his recurring revenue is now through that support as a service. I highly recommend you getting someone if you're stuck in your business, just like Bryan was, but no longer is. Also, you can check out another EOS implementer who's part of our community. It's Daniel. You can go to episode 447, and he's both a Monday partner and an EOS implementer, and you can listen to that interview as well. Reach out to Bryan on LinkedIn and share what you learned and share the episode cover. Love you for that. Also, share it with your peers, right? There's someone who might be stuck at the moment or is interested in really stepping up their business. This would be a great episode for them. Share it with them and they will think you're a rock star. Also, check out our solo shows. And finally, I'll see you next time on the Paul Higgins podcast for more quick and simple ways to grow your tech consulting business to live more of the life that you want now.
Time for action. Subscribe, comment, and let me know what you like best about this episode. Plus, get the Strategic Profits Blueprint at paulhigginsmentoring.com/blueprint.